KISANJA HAKUNA MACHEZO is a Swahili word that means a term with no jokes, a term with no play, that is entirely seriousness. And that was dubbed by the president of this country, as it started in 2017. Now, it has come to an end and a lot has been in it. My name is Senator Adrian Charlson and this is the Mirror Extra. On my left is the deep brain Paddy Brian Sulaiman to break down the issues of the KISANJA HAKUNA MACHEZO. Has the Machezo been there or it hasn't? Questions are there and a lot more is to ask as it has just ended this week. In the very KISANJA HAKUNA MACHEZO, we have seen the emergence of Bobi Wine. I think the emergence of this young man has made a highlight and he has shaped the politics from then up to right now, and we expect him to continue shaping the political landscape even after the swearing in of the new president.
Okay, for starters, I would like to say good afternoon, our viewers, and I hope you are fine this very weekend. I would like to say that His Excellence, the Ghetto President, but nowadays known to be the principal of National Unity Platform, Bobi Wine, indeed has been one of those greatest features of KISANJA HAKUNA MACHEZO. Of course, he came into scene following the by-elections of Chadondo East in 2017. Of course, as he came in, he came as a very big brand. A lot of youth believed in him, a lot of hopeless Ugandans, those that had no hope in them, they got follow him just because of what he preached to them. That is Bobi Wine. And then he came with a slogan, People Power, where he told that the power of this land is indeed meant to be in hands of the people. And to me, following what makes Bobi Wine from the time he started with People Power movement, where he managed to win the people's heart, to the time when he created the National Unity Platform, attracting so many politicians from other political parties. Now to National Unity Platform, the kind of competition he put against the president-elect, that is President Yoweri Kaguta Rutahabura Museveni. I think that is something you cannot really go about without thinking that this was indeed part of KISANJA HAKUNA MACHEZO.
In this very KISANJA, we have seen a lot of entanglements in the constitution of this country. We have seen a lot of amendments, and I think some of them are not necessary. For example, in 2017, the age limit bill, Article 102B, was amended that the president of this country had to have made 35 and not beyond 75 years of age.
When it comes to a constitution, that is the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda, yes, it is meant to be amended because the Constitution itself provides that article of amending this very Constitution. To me, it's all about the numbers, and the numbers can be a very big change of play. If at all any bill is brought before Parliament and it is all about having a change of any article in this Constitution, so be it.
Excuse me, a tiny bit here. You see, some constitution amendments are made unnecessary just because the numbers are there. You see, these numbers are like this. The numbers are not genuine. It's like someone getting these hands like this and tells you, you know what? Tap where the stone is. You're going to tap somewhere, and when you open the fingers, in both of the hands there are no stones. It looks like even if something bad goes into the parliament, but supported by the ruling party, it shall be passed because automatically the other party has the numbers, even when it is bad. That is where I come to conflict with democracy.
Of course, democracy has questions, but because in Uganda we're a country that decided to go for democracy, which democracy I would question not being real, but having accepted to go by principles of democracy. Yes, we go by the numbers, whether what is going to be passed is genuine or something that is almost evil. So for starters, getting back to the age limit bill, which was intended to uplift or to lift the age for which one can contest for any political position. I believe it came in a spirit where one of our own biggest personalities, the president of Uganda, had interest in this bill. For of course he wanted to have this age being lifted so that he who was by then approaching to 75, I believe he was 73, if I'm not mistaken, then would be able to stand for presidential elections come 2021. One can say, was he wrong or he was right? He might have been wrong according to what you think should have been good, should have been actually passed in line with Uganda's interests. But then he was right, because this, at the end of the day, was passed by the majority numbers of the parliament.
I've told you I have questions to the majority numbers. Well, yet another thing was the fight in parliament. Thereafter, about that very bill, we got to see, wow, the parliament turned into wrestling.
Now, Uganda's legislators, I think, maybe they thought, yes, they had to do something that was extraordinary, because this was aiming at lifting the age where President Museveni would be allowed to stand for presidency come 2021. In fact, most of these legislators that were opposed to this bill, they stood their way just because they thought this bill was in favor of President Museveni. So they forgot other kind of people that could get favored by the same bill. I believe because of the passing of this bill, there was this young man who was always on run with the police, Katumba. If it was not for lifting this age limit, probably Katumba would not have contested for presidency, but because of the lifting of the age limit, Katumba was able to actually contest for presidency. So those that thought it was high time for President Museveni to get out of power, they looked at this as a very big disappointment. They looked at this as a selfish move by President Museveni and NRM as a whole to have to cling on to power for the time they would wish, if not for eternity.
But then, it just sounds logical if someone like John Katumba was eliminated, would have been eliminated if this age limit was not removed. But then you would just imagine how this would be, and would just imagine who those that are opposing it would think of them. The other thing, still, the parliament in this very Sunday has made 100 years. Yes. Are we seeing the intended cause of the parliament? Because the parliament is based on numbers, but the numbers we have are towards a certain side, and we have partisan politics where you have to go by the rules of the party. So if the party contenders wish to support something that is not right, even if you're not in support with it, even if you're not in line with it, you will end up supporting that very thing.
For starters, I would like also to water down that kind of claim. Remember, before party, legislators do come into parliament and debate over anything, they caucus and then agree to disagree. Still, numbers play. So from their caucus, they come out having agreed as to whether then in parliament, each one of them have to support this or not supporting it. It is an agreement or disagreement taken behind their caucuses. Now, I do believe at the end of the day, if you are this legislator, knowing that the stand of the caucus was you have to support, and that was by the majority. So you go into parliament and you support what stands to be the best for that political party. To me, I think that is not bad, because at the end of the day, democracy is a game of numbers. If you don't have numbers, then you can go and hang. Or if you think otherwise, try to develop and have more numbers. That's what I can say about this.
Well, those are the songs in Parliament. You see, the Ugandan Parliament will always be comic. I just can't stop saying that. Well, the other thing was the Arua fracas. Just because these events, they were sequential. After Bobi Wine had emerged, the age limit emerged, and these deaths have started, because between there they murdered Chirumia. They murdered Kawesi, they murdered Chigundu. After there, they murdered Abiriga. Most of those are security officers. Now, coming here, they made a by-election for Arua municipality. And Bobi Wine supported
Kasiano Wadri.
Kasiano Wadri.
Is it Kasiano Wadri?
Yes. Okay. Now, after that, in the campaigns in Arua, we saw still comedy, where some people came out and said that Bobi Wine is, I'm talking about Robert Chagulani, his supporters stoned the presidential motorcade, which was moving. And still questions developed. Still in that very event, Bobi Wine's driver, Kauma Yasin, was murdered. The fracas still continues even up to now, because that kind of thing has always happened, where people have always fought with the police. Where are we going?
Okay, about the issue of Arua fracas, I would want to think, one, it was very wrong to have a lot of brutality, force, and whatever happened. You remember that it involved Bobi Wine's driver, and I think for his family has been made to mourn for their lifetime. Then about the issue of Bobi Wine supporters stoning the president's vehicle. This can be looked at to be a stage-managed accusation, but at the same time we must agree that it depends. It depends on what the court can say. I believe at the end of the day that the courts exonerated Bobi Wine of whatever happened in the northern part of Uganda for some cases, I believe. But then ideally, if we had a group of people that stoned the president's vehicle, that is very unbecoming, because the president is always guarded with a highly trained military officials.
In most cases, I want to so much dig into what may be hidden from obviousness. Is it possible to stone a president's vehicle? You can imagine if you have ever met that convoy, is it possible to stone a vehicle? And even, look, stoning a vehicle, we've stoned the vehicle, still, you get it? So they broke the glass, the rear windscreen. Man.
For me, when it comes to Uganda, anything is possible, especially with the disgruntled nature of Ugandans. When it comes to the biggest population, Adrian, that when you look at our Uganda's youth, you are going to realize that they can't do anything. A case in point is whatever they did after the arrest of Bobi Wine during the elections, that can tell you that they can do anything. You have Ugandans who beat up women, stripped women of their attires because they support NRM. You've got those young men who stoned an NRM vehicle because it is colored yellow. By the way, I'm not dressed in yellow because I support NRM, but we are trying to speak the facts here. You've got a bracket of the youth that encountered the military everywhere. Actually, you could you'd see these youths being on run with the military, having thrown blocks in the middle of the road, the 99 blocks, and also burning tires. So anything can happen with Uganda's population, especially the youth, and they have reasons why they react in the way they do. But at times we need to react by thinking. You need not to trouble before trouble.
My question was about the physics. Stoning a car moving out of the many cars that are guarded with guns. With me, my physics does. Anyway, I may try, I may go back home and get some speed.
And I want to end this with this summary. You could be in a war, or you've had cases of the security operatives making gunshots, and just all of a sudden they apologize for killing someone of the stray bullet targets the president's vehicle. So it is very possible. It is okay for you to doubt, but it is very possible for this vehicle to have been stolen. Now, what can be left to be discussed is as to whether this was a genuine accusation or it was just a fabricated story.
Well, beyond that, the OTT, the mobile money tax, isn't this extortion? Because with us the Ugandans would not mind the many kinds of taxes. The service delivery.
Wow. Now, when it comes to OTT, it is not the only tax, that has been levied onto Ugandans. But again, the Ugandans welcomed this in a negative way. I, for one, was not happy of it. Looking at this form of tax, many of the Ugandans interpreted this as to fail very many youths that had, found it convenient to access media, social media. And well, on social media, the government knows these youths, either they spend their time wasting it, they are idle, or they spend this time by having to oppose the regime, which I think if they oppose the regime genuinely, it is okay. But if then they had to oppose everything because they have to do so, that is wrong. There was also a trend of these youths having to insult everybody because they have the platform and whatsoever. So I think probably the government having to think of bringing the OTT tax in line with what people thought that this was brought to have to fail them accessing internet. Maybe this was right, but it is quite questionable because this tax, as you said, the revenue might be misused just like the rest of the sources of revenue.
The time is not on our side, but as I was studying commerce, they told me that one of the characteristics of very good tax, it should be convenient one, it should be payable, and I just found these people evading the tax. They avoided it, they did not pay it, and finally the tax has been scrapped. Anyway, beyond that, still in this very KISANJA, the Entebbe Express Highway.
I think with the Entebbe Express Highway, it is one of those things that we as a country will live to remember. It is one of those fewest things that we have in modern times. Though it is a kind of infrastructure, I think, that was established with a lot of money being misused. But you have to appreciate the fact that we have it. As for questions of misuse of government funds in establishment or putting up a number of infrastructures, my call to the government is to ensure they work upon everyone engaged in corrupt cases or in corruption. So they should work upon them by not merely bringing them before court and probably sentencing them for a few years and they get back. We must get whatever wealth and money these people have accumulated out of the corruption.
About that recently, I had a minister flirting that, do you know what? Some people were found to have done corruption, but after they brought back the money, they were put back to office. Well, still in this very KISANJA, abductions. arbitrary arrests.
So seems for starters that some of these features might be with abductions. Some of these abductions are not entirely done by the government, and I do believe it's a wrong word to use as to state that the government abducts it.
I was talking about the other abductions that happened. That's why I put
whatever the case is. If the government carries out arbitrary arrests and that those who are arrested are dealt with by respecting the human rights, but by not torturing them.
They are arbitrary in courts. Arbitrary arrests.
Exactly. Now, when it comes to this, I don't think the president, on coming up with KISANJA HAKUNA MACHEZO, meant having to operate in line with abductions, arbitrary arrests and the likes. But there are times when certain things are not available. Now, with arbitrary arrests, he has been able to deal with his enemies, internal enemies. And some of these internal enemies, one would think they are not so strong, but they are strong because of their propaganda. They are strong because of their belief and what they make other people to believe in, and the way how their propaganda is spreading like fire. So having to arrest them under such kind of arbitrary arrest, probably this has brought some sanity in our country. But for me, I would think the government should devise means on working upon the problems of these youth, the problems of these other people, as to why they oppose the government, so that things are turned right.
Well, just after here, I'm going to ask the cameraman if he does deal with his enemies like that. Still in this very one, the Rwanda border was, since then, they tried to go into agreements, but they fruited nothing. Do you know what? The border is closed with a neighbor. We thought these people are friends. We thought one is the ego of the other. But you know what? People's business has started. Some buses are no longer moving just because the border is closed. Why would this happen with a neighbor, with anyway a good friend?
It depends on how you'd want to take the two. That is President Yoweri Kaguta, and I repeat, Rutahabu Museveni, with now the President of Rwanda, Paul Kagame. I would think, for starters, these two are kind of people that have issues between them. Between the two, each one of them would want to prove that they are superior than the other. So at the end of the day, you find that their own misunderstandings do bring problems to their respective countries they lead. To me, I think the two presidents, first of all, need to sit down, or there has to be a third party that should come in to intermediate the reconciliation between the two sides. Then, of course, Uganda accuses President Museveni and entirely Rwanda for supporting certain rebellious activities against Rwanda's government. Equally, the President of Uganda and our own government, our entire country, have a lot of accusations against Rwanda. I do believe if all this is solved, then we shall have sanity. Then we shall have our relationships between Uganda and Rwanda amended, and then the economy or economic activities carried out initially between these two countries can thrive again.
Bobi Wine arrested just last year, and people striked this strike and taken some good time without being seen. In fact, it has never been seen. Expect him to continue shaping the political landscape even after the swearing in of the new president.
Okay, for starters, I would like to say good afternoon, our viewers, and I hope you are fine this very weekend. I would like to say that His Excellency, the Ghetto President, but nowadays known to be the principal of National Unity Platform, Bobi Wine, indeed has been one of those greatest features of KISANJA, HAKUNA, MACHEZO. Of course, he came into scene following the Paddy Messiah. So the government has to look on having to solve problems and getting to the admirational kind of features that these people have over Bobi Wine, and they cling on those features. I think at the end of the day, such issues will be solved. Lastly, Adrian, about that very fracas, we saw a number of people dying. This was unbecoming, and I asked the government that for sure every life of Ugandan matters. Maybe in case when the population does appear like as if they are fighting the government, they are indeed in a battle. So he who goes into a battle, they either kill the enemy or they get killed. That's a different case. But we're looking at the life of an innocent person who dies just because of insecurity. And now the role of the government is to ensure that it enriches their spy network to get such plans anytime, and they handle them anytime so that they can prevent all those adverse effects of such a scenario. That's the message they give to the government.
I think the spy network is here because they've just told us that they found out those people who wanted to further the swearing in. So, to some extent, the spy network is there. Finally, Museveni was re-elected president. After all of that, after all of the age limit things, after all the parliament comedy, after everything, he was re-elected president.
Okay. President Museveni was re-elected president in such a very contesting presidential election. Of course, no one ever thought that he, Bobi Wine, or Honorable Robert Chagulanyi, the Jaja Wabazukulu, the Rutahabura, President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. So I think, yes, he was voted in, but he faced a very big challenge from now the new boy on the block, the new political personnel on the block, and that is the Honorable Robert Chagulanyi, getting that 59%. For me, when actually the voting, the voting started and now the counting was on, I saw it coming. I predicted that the winner would get about 59%.
Well, with all of that, with me, I just believe that we cannot accept what is wrong and we cannot refuse what is right. What is wrong, let me start with what is right. What is right is that Museveni is here, and what is wrong is the claim that he may leave soon. My name is Senabia Adrian, and that has been the Mirror Extra. We've explored the KISANJA HAKUNA MACHEZO that has just ended last week, and we are waiting for the name of the coming one.
Thank you so much.